Live from the KHOU 11 studios, it's Great Day Houston.
How many times has this happened to you? You're humming a song, you get in the car, turn on the radio, and there it is. Has that happened to you before? Yeah, okay. Or you pick up the phone to call someone you haven't spoken to in a while, and before you can dial their number, they're calling you, or they actually walk through the door. Has it happened to you before? Yeah. Okay, how about this one? You pick a random group of numbers, and you find out you won the lotto jackpot. Has that... Okay, all right, okay. Well, that's where it stops for most of us, but otherwise, what we think is nothing more than coincidence, our first guest calls God winks, basically some form of divine intervention. Here to explain, please welcome the author of the best-selling books Divine Alignment and When God Winks, SQuire Rushnell. Hi.
Thank you.
This is such an interesting phenomenon because it's happened to just about everybody.
Everybody.
And sometimes it is a coincidence, but then there are times when you go, what are the odds?
Yes. Well, when those coincidences happen that you know have just unbelievable odds to them and that couldn't possibly be a coincidence, what do you call it? Well, there was no word in the language, but now there is, and it's going to be in the dictionaries very soon. God wink.
God wink, and that's a great way to explain it. You know, we were talking in the green room earlier about kind of people used to say, well, my prayers were answered for some part of an answer of some divine alignment, if you will. But this is a little bit different than saying your prayers are answered.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And it was my readers, as I was writing these books, When God Winks, that led me to the notion that there is also no word in the English language for answered prayer. And that they began taking this word God winks and filling that vacancy with it. So a God wink is a fun little word that everybody has these experiences, and now we know what they are. We can call them that. But here's what's wonderful about God winks. The more you see them, the more you acknowledge them, the more they seem to unfold in your life.
Yeah. How did you go about starting this particular book, this series of books?
Well, I was at ABC for 20 years, and so...
We don't say ABC over here, we say CBS.
I was at the Alphabet for 20 years. And I was also the guy who brought you Schoolhouse Rock.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
And I was running Good Morning America. Can we mention Good Morning America, you know? And anyway, I would stand in the back of the control room, and I would always be fascinated when the reporter began a story with, ironically today.
You're not going to believe this.
And I would perk up my ears because I thought, I wonder if this is another one of those coincidences that nobody can really believe is a coincidence. So when I left my network job after 20 years, I really went in search of what I could do to be a speaker. And I went out and started talking about these experiences that I had collected in all of my broadcast years that fascinated me. And I realized I was connecting with my audience in a new kind of way. And so I started writing this book about coincidences, and I realized halfway through the book that I couldn't really call them that. I had to come up with a word.
Yeah, and you found story after story after story. It comes to the point where you can't deny what you're calling the God winks.
Right.
I go through phases where God is not only, it's not like he's winking, he's slapping me upside the head. I mean, it's like, you know, and so I know you're going to think this is strange, but I was actually singing in the shower once. Because I know I sing all the time, right?
Really?
Okay, yes. And I have had duets with every Grammy winner there is, right, in the shower. But one day I was singing like a song I was singing with Peebo Bryson in my shower. He wasn't really in my shower, but I was singing a song that, so I was doing a Whole New World. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if I could sing a duet with him once? And I don't know why that came in my head. I just said that. The next day I get to work, and the program director goes, hey, Deborah, I got to ask you something. How would you like to sing with Peebo Bryson for the mayor's tree lighting? I went, what? And here's what happened.
Wow.
Oh, feelings, soaring, tumbling, freewheeling through an endless diamond sky. Oh, new world. Don't you dare close your eyes. Hold your breath, it gets better. I'm like a shooting star. I've come so far, I can't go back to where I used to be.
slap upside the head.
That was amazing.
And then God said to me, "You need to lose some weight, Deborah." It was my thyroid, and I went to Starbucks, and a thyroid doctor walked up to me and said, "Hi, Debra Duncan, do you have a thyroid problem?" And sure enough, that's what it was. So that was a big God wink too.
That is incredible.
Wow. All right, by now you've noticed that Jane Ellis has joined us. She has had her fair share of God winks too, and her story is one of those featured in the book. Hi there.
Hi, Deborah.
And I do have to say that some of the best stories come, and ladies, you know this, when we're at the Lady Doctor. And you are a nurse practitioner.
Yes, I am.
And one of our producers is going in for her yearly. And during that awkward moment, you think, how do we talk about something? You go, hey, do you know about that book, God Winks? And that's how we're all sitting here today. You never know where those God Winks can happen, right?
That's exactly right.
You have such a great story that a lot of us can relate to, especially in the beginning, because you had one of those POW bracelets as a child. You still have it, right?
Still have it, yeah.
Look at that.
I was 16 years old, lived in a town called Mount Pleasant, Texas, and I was a cheerleader. And we decided we all needed POW bracelets because we were going to support our guys. So for 2 years, I wore a POW bracelet, and I did everything with. I mean, I had it on almost all the time, 24/7. I was a cheerleader. I had it on there, and we prayed for Colonel Thorsness all the time.
Yeah.
But the best place we prayed for him was every Wednesday night when I would go to my youth group. And so we had this wonderful prayer meeting, and we would pray for all the guys there that were in Vietnam. And then 2 years later, I watched him come off the plane. They would show it in the evening news, and I watched him come off the plane. And I heard the name. I heard the name, and I knew it was my guy. I just went, this is incredible. And so I put my bracelet away, and I never thought about it for a long time, ever.
Now, can I say that Colonel Leo Thorsness was shot down over Hanoi. He was in one of those horrible, horrible prisons, the prison they called Hanoi Hilton.
Yes.
And he thought, I don't know if I'm ever going to be out of here. And of course, they told him day in and day out that those Americans hate you, they don't care about you, and you know, you're going to stay here and you're going to die.
Yeah.
He didn't know that there was prayer power going on back here in Katy, Texas, or in Texas.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. I had my POW bracelet too, but I never thought that I would ever meet him. And the God winks for you just kept going on and going on.
It was incredible. I put it away, and then 40 years later, I'm sitting at the Astros game with two of our friends, and I looked down, and it says, now throwing out the first pitch is Colonel Thorsness. And I jumped up, and I couldn't believe it. I spent about 3 innings trying to get to him, went everywhere to try to find him, had talked to all kinds of different people, couldn't get to him.
Yeah.
And then finally, at the 5th inning, one of the little Astros girls came up, just happened to come to my friend, took me down, and through a series of God winks, I was able to meet him. And we had like a 5-minute love fest. It was, I told him what all he had done with me. He was just adorable. He was 78 years old then, and he was just absolutely the neatest guy. And I told him, Colonel Thorsness, you're my hero. I said, I have my bracelet. I'll send it to you. And he goes, Jane, no, you're my hero.
Aww.
And so we had this. For praying for me for those times. It was such a moment.
And again, this is this thing where you say, not a coincidence.
This is not a coincidence. This is also exemplifies the thesis of divine alignment, which takes the idea of God winks and kind of pulls back on the lens. And it helps us to understand those mysterious connections that cause us to be at the right place, at the right time, to meet the right person, to get us to where God wants us to go. Now, Jane was praying for this man, Leo Thorsness,
she had
who
no
was
idea who he was.
9,000 miles away. Yes, and he had no idea that she was praying for him. But 40 years later, in a stadium that seats 40,000 people, you got these 2 people meet. And that was divine alignment.
Yeah.
What are the mathematical odds of those 2 people finally meeting at that time and that place.
Yeah. How are you on lottery tickets? Have you ever? Well, thanks for sharing that story.
Thank
It's
you
one
so
of
much,
many
Debra.
stories that are in the book, and you can connect with SQuire and his God Winks community through our website, greatdayhouston.com. He's not going away, but up next, our Facebook question. Today on Facebook, we want to hear about your God Winks. Like the day I was singing Easy Like a Sunday Morning by Lionel Richie. When I got into the car, the song came on the radio. When I got to my destination to have lunch with a friend, guess who was sitting in the restaurant right behind me? Lionel Richie. Whoa. All right. I'm hoping for Denzel Wash. I got a whole list of people I want sitting behind me now. All right. Log on and share your God Wink stories, and we'll show some of them later in the show.